Hey, Jennifer here from Belladonna's Botanicals, and today's video is going to be one that I've had on my to-do list for probably close to a year. I just didn't know where to go with it at the time, but one of the things I jotted down somewhere in one of my journals, either earlier this year or sometime last year, was sorry, just to give this a preface, my workings with King Paimon are never intentional. He just kind of shows up sometimes. It shows up, be like, hey, I would like a product line too. Or, in other workings with other people, he just, with other of the demonic divine, just has randomly showed up over times. I think I need to work with Paimon a little more intentionally. But that's been my experience so far. But in this particular experience, I'm not entirely sure of the whys and wherefores of it, but what Paimon revealed to me was about creating and working with your own personal pantheons. And if I recall correctly, some of this, I think he was talking to me a little bit about, like, when we read things and like, oh, so-and-so commands a legion, 66 legions. Well, I've often wondered, like, what is the unit count of a legion? Apparently it's 6,666. So apparently there's a lot of demons that we just don't know about. So within this, he started talking about this creating your personal pantheon. And I thought about that for a bit. I was like, that's an interesting concept. Like, but I kind of wasn't sure what to do with it yet, because I didn't really, it wasn't something I explored or researched. And then I happened to be reading S. Conley's The Complete Book of Demonolatry. And what was interesting, I think it's on page 41. I just actually started reading this the other day. It's a whole chapter called Creating Personal Pantheons. And I was like, that's interesting. And, the way she kind of outlines it, she doesn't mention Paimon as being the one that talked about it, but it's the same kind of concept. I'm like, maybe this is some verified personal gnosis. Dun, dun, dun. So in this, we're talking about personal pantheons beyond, working with your matron or patron. That's pretty common. But when we look at what our pantheon is, like, you could take a pantheon of, say, the Goetic demons, or the Grimoire Verum, or the Ducante hierarchy, or go into any, I would say geographical, cluster, whether you're working with the Greco-Roman pantheons or the Celtic or the Nordic, or maybe cultural is better in that sense, or the Slavic witchcraft and things like that. So you have all these different pantheons. I don't particularly work with Norse heathenry or Celtic practices outside of working with the Morrigan. I don't really follow those pantheons and practices as they are, as such. So in that case, if I was to build my own personal pantheon, what would that look like based upon the hierarchy of the demonic divine and dark goddesses that I work with? So for me, Lucifer would be my patron, Lilith would be my matron. Beyond that, like, I'm starting to kind of think about this, like, how would I construct that pantheon? How is this structured? Because, I have sort of, like, say, the underworld type entities that I work with. So in the underworld, that could be anyone from Abaddon, Santa Muerte, the Morrigan, Hecate, the Virgin Mary's even popped up before there. So that could be one aspect of my pantheon. Those are all very different pantheons. Morgan's from the Celtic, Hecate's Greek, Santa Muerte, that kind of falls into sort of the Mexican Catholic aspect. Although, I mean, she is worshipped within the occult, perspective as well. The Virgin Mary, that's Roman Catholicism, or just maybe not even Catholicism, Christianity, say. And there's other ones as well. So that's one part of my pantheon, would be the underworld aspect to it. So what else do I work with? Well, there's the dark goddesses. Well, primarily that's for me Lilith, Hecate, Astarte. Again, you could kind of overlapping with the Morrigan, pull in Medusa, and maybe a couple other ones. So that's one aspect of it as well. Then there's sort of the demonic divine aspect. Well, who do I work with there? Like really work with? Now, I've worked with some entities like Baal and Beelzebub and Asmodeus. I just don't work with them a lot. So they would kind of be peripheral on my pantheon, but not, in that top tier hierarchy. So in that, beyond, the matron patron, is that in that top tier demonic divine hierarchy, I would be working with like Abaddon and Azazel and Belial and Satan and, probably a few other. Mammon would be another one. And then, so kind of looking at how I would construct my personal pantheon in that sense, not following like, well, I got to do the, here's the Goetia, here's, the 9 demonic gatekeepers, here's, the Celtic pantheon or the Norse one, is that I am able to go through this and pick and choose my personal pantheon. Welcome to the independent functioning protectorate of Jen. So that really kind of put it into a different perspective. It's a short chapter on here, but like I was really happy to read this. Like, I'm like, oh wow, cool. So this is just gonna be a short video, but I just wanted to talk about that concept. And King Paimon just kind of for me shows up when he shows up, and it's always kind of random. So I will be working with Paimon and the other Goetic demons. I am embarking upon path working with them over the course of the next year or so. I have another video about that I just finished recording. So anyways, thanks for watching. Don't forget to click like and subscribe. Follow us on social media and subscribe to our e-newsletter so you can see our videos, because YouTube sucks right now. Bye.